Hey everyone, it's John with Vermont Homesteader. It's July 14th. It's about 5 a.m. It's been a long night. Watched a lot of news yesterday evening, and I've watched some more this morning. And this is the day after the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, also the Republican nominee for presidency of the United States in the 2024 election. I actually had done an entire video on canning salsa, but with the current events, I thought maybe a different video would be proper for this time. And I'd like to start by praying for the families of the attendee at President Trump's rally who lost their loved one yesterday, and for the two families whose loved ones are critically injured. And I think more than anything, that's the paramount thing to be concerned about today, is that people went to a rally, which, if you've ever been to a political rally, they're kind of like a rock concert or a country music festival, and there's a lot of happy people there, and they come to see their candidate and hear him speak, and everybody plans to go and have a good time and then go home at the end. And three people who attended that rally did not go home. One of them will never go home, and hopefully the other two will get better with time and be able to go home to their families. And I just want to start this video there because I think that's paramount, because life is precious and people are important. Even if they're not a President Donald Trump, they're somebody's father or brother or mother or sister or aunt or uncle, and they're very important to someone and to God himself. So I have been praying for those families, and will continue to do so today. As for the assassination attempt, there's a lot that can be said there. I've watched the video repeatedly, and I'm going to do this assessment from 33 years in law enforcement, some things I saw there. Also from just a perspective of chance and how things just work out. And either President Trump is one of the luckiest people on the face of the planet by the tune of trillions to one, or the good Lord had his hand on him and helped him out yesterday. Because when you watch that video, the sniper, who's been identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks — I don't know why the media always does that for a shooter of an important person or in a big event. They always use all three names. And this guy's name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. He's 20. He's from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour's drive away from Butler, Pennsylvania, where the rally was taking place. So Crooks took up a vantage point about 164 yards from Trump's podium on a rooftop. That's about 150 meters, which would be 450 feet, roughly, give or take. Pretty much any deer hunter in the United States can make that shot. I'm a hunter, and I've taken several shots at 150 to 200 yards. So that is not a hard distance to shoot. You do have to have some skill, but you're not an expert. You just have to do some shooting, get familiar with your weapon, and you can send the round downrange and hit your target pretty easily. I mean, a lot of deer have been killed at 150 meters. So anybody that tells you that he was an expert with a rifle is just lying to you. They don't understand firearms. They don't understand shooting. They may not have ever even shot a gun. He had to have some skill, but he was not an expert. did pick about a perfect perch, though he was seen by bystanders. There's video out now today of people yelling and pointing, saying he's got a gun, trying to warn the police, just 10 seconds before the first shot rang out, which may have rushed his shot, because people were yelling. He knew he was identified, and he knew he had very little time. But anyway, so 150 meters, not a hard shot. He was at a perfect perch, looking down on the former president. He had direct, straight line of sight without interruption. Hey, Gia. And I have to wonder why the Secret Service didn't have a sniper team on there. I've been part of other presidential details, security details, not in a sniper position, just in a close quarters guard position. And the Secret Service usually have rooftops covered within a normal shooting distance. So probably 500 yards and under. There's not many people in the world. There's some, I mean, don't get me wrong, that can shoot 500 plus yards accurately and hit their target. When I was on the SWAT team for the state police, we used to train at 500 yards, and we could hit our target. But there's not a lot of people that can just pick up a rifle and do that. So the Secret Service usually has that covered. Though, you know, they're just people too, and they can't cover everything. The bottom line is, if you're willing to trade your life for an important person, you're probably going to get it done. And there's not much that can stop that. So that said, to continue, he had a perfect perch. And if you watch the video very closely, God's hand was on President Trump. Because as this guy is pulling the trigger, Trump is facing straight out to the crowd. And this guy was locked on, clearly to the back of his skull. Right here, actually. Because, let me think about that. So it came from Trump's right. Okay. He was locked on here. Right here, it's called the medulla oblongata, part of your brain. And that's where we're trained as snipers to take a shot. Because when you hit somebody there, it's instant lights out. So you look, and at the very last second, probably as the firing pin is coming forward with that trigger pull, Trump does this and looks to the right. So instead of the back of his head exposed, all of a sudden his ear is exposed. And that's why he got shot in the ear. At the very moment the trigger was being pulled, he turned his head to the right. And he's basically looking now right at the shooter. Not that he saw the shooter at 164 yards away, 165 yards away. But that movement probably saved his life. And I would fear greatly what would happen if either one of these presidential candidates was shot and killed by somebody who's deemed an adversary to them. I would fear that extreme civil violence might break out in the country, and anybody that hopes or wishes for that is deluded, because in the last Civil War, it was southern states against northern states. It was groups of states, groups of governments against other groups of governments, and everything was pretty well defined, except right along the Mason-Dixon line, where even families fought on different sides of the war. But a political war would be very different. A political war, you have to look at voter rolls in a state. You have Democrats, Republicans, socialists, libertarians, independents, all living on the same street. Your enemy might be your neighbor. And that would be cataclysmic for the United States of America, and for small communities to counties to states to the whole country. So my prayer is that something like that does not happen in this country, because I don't think anybody really realizes what that would look like, and it would be very bad for all of us. So yeah, President Trump was blessed yesterday, and sadly, some people that were behind him on the bleachers in the crowd were not. And again, I pray for those families, that the Lord give them strength and courage. That said, now this Thomas Matthew Crooks, there's many reports out now. He was 20 years old. He graduated in Bethel Park from high school 2 years ago. There's video now of his graduation ceremony. There's reports that he is a registered Republican, and that may be because in many states, in primaries, people switch parties to affect the primary and try and get somebody else to win the primary, because really elections are all about primaries. If you can win the primary, then obviously you're the candidate. So if you want to defeat a candidate, you try and defeat them in the primary. So there's a lot of cross-party voting. So who knows really what his political affiliation is. I don't think you can tell from how he declared the last time he voted. There's reporting that his adult family members voted for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden in the last two elections. There's also reporting that he had ties to Antifa during the Seattle and Portland riots in 2021, 2022, roughly. And there's reports that he donated money to a progressive PAC. So we will find out more about him. It's early in this investigation, and I would just recommend that everybody be patient and be calm, and let the police do their job and try and figure it out. And I know that's hard. That's hard to do because, well, frankly, a lot of people don't trust, especially right now, federal law enforcement, especially people who are Trump supporters, because of everything that's happened to him. Literally, they tried to destroy him financially. They impeached him twice. Granted, the Senate didn't convict. They brought civil actions against him for findings of hundreds of millions of dollars. And finally, they tried to put him in jail. They convicted him of whatever it was, 34 felonies. Luckily, that sentencing, which was supposed to happen on July 11th, was put off because the U.S. Supreme Court said that he had immunity for things that he did as President of the United States. The Georgia case against him was already pretty much tossed, and the federal case was put on hold pending the immunity decision, and it's still on hold. So they've tried everything under the sun to get him from running. When somebody's after you that hard, there's a reason for it. And it's not because they think you're a bad candidate. It's because they think you're going to put an upheaval into the system, which after his first presidency and seeing how deep the deep state was, and the deep state is just the administrative state. It's all the unelected people in government who are actually pulling the strings in our government. It's the corporate government. It's the pharmaceutical government. It's just a lot of unelected people who are not of, by, and for the people, but are running the government and making it click, making it work to their desires rather than the desires of the American public. So they've done all these things to him just last week, I saw a quote from President Biden that said he had a bullseye on Trump. And he was talking politically, not literally like a shooter bullseye. But when people are angry, when people are unhinged, when they're fanatical, or when they're mentally ill, they hear language like that, and then somebody gets shot at. So, in politics, you got to be really careful what you say. You should be able to say things like they have a bad immigration policy, they're letting too many illegal immigrants into the country, or they have a bad tax policy and they're creating a tax burden on the American public that is unsustainable. When you start using terms like you're marked or I'm going to put a bullseye on you, even if it's in political terms, those are basically keywords that trigger certain people in our society. And it's clearly obvious that this guy was triggered. And he took a shot at the 45th president of the United States and the current frontrunner to be the 47th president of the United States. So everyone needs to be careful with their language, especially those people who can get on television or who have a platform. Because we are one country, we are one people, and we really need to find common ground for all of us. We're supposed to be a government of, by, and for the people of these United States. Read your Constitution, read the Declaration of Independence. God has given us freedom, and He has put the civil authorities there for good and to punish the evil. That's what the Bible says. I believe it's in Romans maybe 13. And Thomas Jefferson saw that in the Declaration of Independence. He said that when the government, after a long train of abuses occurs, that it is the people's right. In fact, it is their duty to overturn that government. So today we overturn governments, hopefully not with firearms or with riots, but by the voting box. And so I'm going to encourage everyone in November to go out and vote, and to vote for the candidate that is going to bring as much peace in the world as possible, which President Trump did not have any new wars started under his administration. And he also helped with the Abraham Accords, which was bringing peace to the Middle East. And he was slowly bringing our troops back from Afghanistan a little at a time. Versus today, where we're now involved in a conflict in Ukraine and helping out the Israelis in the Middle East and helping out the Taiwanese in Southeast Asia. And there are rumors of war and wars going on now in many parts of the world. So live peacefully, enjoy your liberty, your tea, and vote come November. And think hard and long about who you should actually vote for. I think you all know who I'm going to vote for. I'm voting for Donald Trump. And people demonize him. Orange man is bad. But you got to look deeper. You got to see what he actually did, not what the talking heads on the media tell you he is. And they didn't help either. They've been calling him a fascist and a dictator for 7 years. And that type of reporting needs to stop. So pray to the good Lord that He puts His hand on us and gets us down the right path as a country. Thanks for listening. Vermont Homesteader.